So like many shooters, I obviously have a couple of guns, but this is my main, and has been for a few years now, my main and go-to hunting stalking rifle. It's a Merkel Helix. And today I'm going to talk through it. I have reviewed one of these about 3 years ago. I'm going to talk about my experiences subsequent and what I think about it, and probably just re-review it because, well, why not? The basics first. It is a Merkel Helix RX Helix Alpinist in 3006. Yeah, it's quite cool. Let's start at the front. I'm currently running a B&T silencer, the one that was made for Merkel. It's all right, actually. It's pretty good. The best thing about it, more than anything, is actually that it does weigh a little bit more. I've tried lightweight silencers on this, and as much as they do reduce a bit of capacity, having that extra bit of weight at the muzzle, not that it's overly heavy, is nice. It's not the quietest mod in the world, but neither is it the biggest. So it's all about payoff, really. And it's a 3006, so it's not quiet anyway. I've got the 20-inch fluted semi-weight barrel. There's a lot of barrel options with these. This is just the one that I went for. It's good. Most impressively is the coating they put on it, actually. It's not in the best of order, potentially, but that is what happens when you use gear. And with anything that I do and anything that I use, I like to use it quite hard. I suppose, not out of choice, it's just a personal preference. I do use my gear hard. It's also important that these things stand up to the test that professionals give, and I'm not a professional stalker. I've shot a good number of deer with this rifle. I've been out with it a lot in all weathers, and it's important that it performs. So I'm not going to baby it. There's no point in actually learning about the guns and how they do from both the gun review and my gunsmith point of life by babying it, because you'll never really get a true sense of if it's any good or not. The forend is a standard Alpinist forend. You've got this green rubberized texture. As you can see, it's just starting. There's a bit of damage on the bottom there, but this does happen. There's a tiny little bit of peeling at the back. So this is this wasn't a new rifle when I got it, I should point out. And there was a couple of bits already on it. But this has been woodland stalking through really very thick woodland. And numerous amounts of times it's been on barbed wire fences. It's had a good life, a good hard use life. And it's held up immensely well. On the back, you'll notice I have a very large limb saver pad. This is not because I am a bitch. This is actually because the importance of gun fit was really thrown up with this. It's got a leather sling, some rings and a scope, by the way, as well. The scope is unimportant, the rings are unimportant. I mean, they are loopholed rings, and it's a Meopta scope, but where the rail is quite good, I actually change the scope out on this. Not regularly, but often enough, and it's always back to zero, which is pretty good. I found more with this rifle than anything else is the design spec of this rifle, unsurprisingly, being a Merkel Helix. If we look at the action here, it is geared. It's a geared straight pull. It's probably worth watching the other review video we did if you want something a bit more technical than what I'm going to do today. It's a geared straight pull. So every inch that you move this moves that bolt much more, which gives you a superbly fast cycling action. It's not really designed for long-range single-shot accuracy. It's designed for driven hunting. That's the main purpose behind this rifle. Super fast reloads, shooting at driven game. That was probably why they designed it. And straight pull rifles were not designed with that in mind, but most of that is their main market, and we have adopted them in the UK for what we do them for. That being the case, the stock specs on this gun are not designed to be shot prone, designed for ultra accuracy. They're designed for comfort, stood up. So if you're going to buy one of these to shoot prone at long range, it's probably not the best rifle for the job. Let's be honest. But I'm hoping that's not why you'd consider buying one of these. They're ultra versatile. But finding that actually they end up, because of the stock spec and the extra drop, there is a little bit more kick than other rifles that are designed for prone shooting, bench rest, that kind of thing. And when I first got it, I kind of struggled to shoot it accurately. I struggled to get it as accurate as I knew the rifle could be. And if I wasn't on form, I was having silly things happen I knew were my fault. So very shortly after getting it, I took it into the workshop and started having a little play with gun fit. And gun fit with rifles is important if you would like to be accurate. It being comfortable when you're pulling the trigger is actually really important. When I found it was quite shallow, I ended up snatching the trigger, it wasn't in my shoulder properly, the rifle was moving as I was pulling the trigger. All of these things actually came into the factors that I was losing accuracy. And these barrels are, you know, they're good inside a minute of accuracy, a minute of angle accuracy. And that's plenty enough, in my opinion. They're also 48-hour stress relieved, which means that they are probably one of the least, this is my least fussy gun, that's for sure. I mean, 30-06 isn't the most fussy of cartridge anyway, from my experience. I've had a few of them, and this one is probably the least fussy, to the point that actually in my ammo purse here, I have 2 different types of ammunition, both of which have exactly the same point of impact, from 2 different manufacturers, which I thought was quite interesting. Doubly interesting is that one of them is copper and one of them is lead, but they shoot exactly the same through this gun, which is pretty cool, I think. The ability to not have to stress too much if you can't get a load of ammo. It means that if you have to re-zero, generally you just whack a group of 3 into a piece of paper and it's never ever far away. Not to the point that if you chest shoot a D, you'd want to re-zero, which is something. Anyway, so I put a pad on the back and I extended it. It's got quite a short pad out the factory. I extended it out by just under an inch. And I found my accuracy increased a bit, but it still didn't feel maximum comfort. And instead of making some sort of adapter to go on the back of here, I threw this pad on, and then it was on ever since because, well, yeah, that's me. I suppose it doesn't matter. It's not like a shotgun where it's a good looking rifle, but it's not like a shotgun where it's, I don't know, I know that, it's obvious, right? I'm a shotgun boy more than a rifle boy. I probably prefer to hunt with a rifle, but I prefer to shoot shotguns. And as such, I love my shotguns. I probably have a much more intimate relationship with my shotguns, even though I probably do more time-wise with this. Anyway, so it doesn't matter to me how it looks. This end generally ends up stuck in the mud. Anyway, so it's probably better to have a nice protector. But I found actually once the length and everything was right, I was hitting, you know, probably half a minute of angle accuracy with this rifle now, quite comfortably. It reduced the recoil, it made the rifle 10 times more pleasant to shoot, and I know that that has been a complaint from a few people that these guns are not the most comfortable to shoot in the conventional off-a-bipods sort of way, but that's because they're not designed to, as I've just said. The Speedster is a little bit better for that than the Alpinist, to be fair. It's just a note. Grip-wise, actually, the grip is extremely full, the neck is nice, and I prefer this to the Speedster. I really do. It's extremely versatile, you can get your thumb around it, and it's a lot easier to get to that bolt than it is on the Speedster, I think. Or at least, it just works for me better. It might not look as nice potentially, but it is nice. The grip, ergo, where it is quite full but slim, will fit a variety of hand sizes. I mean, it doesn't even max out my grip on it, which is nice. I've got fairly wide hands, but I've seen people with much smaller hands shoot it and they can choke up on its neck and actually shoot it really well. The trigger is fully adjustable, and the trigger is probably one of my favorite bits. I've got it set right down at about 1.5 pounds. It is obscenely light, crisp, nice, no complaints. 3-shot mag, other shot mags are available, but to be honest, for most of what I do, the 3-shot is plenty. You can just top it up. Right, you can always just top it up. Or buy a 5-shot. It clips in real easily, and you've got these 2 buttons on the side. I've not had it fall out. I've had mags on my other rifles fall out in fields, in woodland. And luckily I've noticed every time, because they do make a noise when they hit the floor, but I know people who haven't noticed, and that's an issue. I like the fact it jumps out into your hand. The whole thing just makes a very quick process. It is not the quietest of rifles. You know, if you're trying to be superbly quiet with it, it's not overly noisy, but it's quite hard to be quiet with by comparison to the Jaeger 10 from Haenel, for example, or other bolt-action rifles. Mag, nothing is that quiet, but it's not designed to be. And that said, I've never not shot deer because it's not quiet. What's interesting as well is that you've got the full decocking mechanism on the back. I find that most interesting of all. I've been places where they've let me shoot this gun, and they've made other stalkers carry their rifles on an empty chamber. They've let me carry mine on a full chamber because I can decock it, and that makes that rifle perfectly safe. What's also nice for travel is the bolt head comes off, and as much as I don't really clean this gun half as often as I should, mostly just to see how it... With all rifles, right, you get a lot of complaints, and it's always interesting to see people's opinions and points of views, and I can talk you through some of the issues that people have had with them. You can take this bolt head out. And so for security when traveling, and I haven't traveled abroad with it because we've been in Corona for most of the time I've owned it, but it's been a real interesting option that I keep this out of the rifle pretty much all the time that I'm not using it, because it takes no effort to take out, which is nice, and it makes this gun completely unfunctional. Completely unfunctional. So, issues, and I suppose what thing is people always want to know, what issues is it going to have? What issues have I had with mine? The only one was the fact that it kicked a little bit more than some of my rifles that are, well, they're more designed for target shooting anyway, so of course they're going to kick a little less. It kicked a little bit more, so I had to sort some gun fit out. That's the only issue I've had. Some of the issues that people have had, let's talk you through them. Long range accuracy. The gun isn't really designed to shoot past about 500 yards. The guns are capable, but they're not really designed to. They're not heavy, they're not big, heavy rifles. And I've said, they're accurate enough, they're hard to make accurate, if that makes sense. However, I'd rather, there's no other rifle I'd rather shoot off of sticks in a woodland or off a tree or freehand. It's that nice to shoot. At this point, I should say that it doesn't come in left hand. That's one of my main gripes with it, because a few of my left-handed friends like it, but can't have one. Not that they have any intentions of making a left-handed one, so Yahoo sucks to you. Some cartridge calibers are more fusky than others. These guys recommend certain brands. I have not had a problem. I have put, I don't know, many different types of ammunition with this rifle without a single jam or stickage. And I have seen them get sticky in the chamber. Generally with these smaller, tighter necked cartridges, 243 for example, can get a bit sticky in these. But then it becomes only important to pick the right type of ammunition for the rifle, and then you'll have no problems at all. It's also important, I think, to keep them a little bit clean. There's a lot of rumors out there, they'll fill up with pine needles and stuff. I have never washed this action out. I'm regularly in pine woodland. The bolt's always closed and the mag's always in. The chances of anything getting in there is pretty minimal. And if something has got in there, there is a few pine needles in the back actually. It's still working. It's still functioning absolutely perfectly. One of the only other issues I have experienced, and I can only sort of boil this down, I suppose, to more user areas. I've seen one of these levers snap off, and I've seen one of these lever pin retaining screws snap off. It's not a big deal because, well, you're not doing it on purpose. There you go. I mean, that's one of the only other issues I've seen, but that's unbelievably rare as far as I can see. And then the other issues, I could probably boil that down to some of the other issues I could tell you, but most of those are because people take them apart wrong, which is kind of my fault because I think we did a video on how to take it apart. So I do apologise to the world for that one. Things I would change about the Merkel Helix. Not a great deal, to be honest. Not a great deal. The finish is exceptional. Like, it hasn't rusted and fallen apart, which many of my other rifles have done in the past. And not because of neglect, but because if you do get a little bit of blood or water on a rifle and leave it overnight, because you've had a late night in the larder and you get back, you can end up with something absolutely brown and disgusting, and you'll never get them back to how they were without refinishing them. This rifle has stood up unbelievably well. That's it, really. There is nothing I would change. I like it a lot. Having factory spacers for the back, I'd like that a lot. I'd like that a lot. I know they've looked into that with other models. That's actually an option. And when you first get a gun, don't you? You have high expectations, and then it kind of disappoints. Most of them will disappoint you that they didn't change your life like completely. You thought you'd wake up the next morning with a six-pack, and the world would love you, and you'd be a millionaire because you bought the rifle of your dreams. You realise that actually the lusting after it was probably just as good as the getting. And then you use it for a bit, and then you learn to hate it. It's a bit like a car. Within the first 6 months, you go, oh God, I really dislike most of these things. This annoys me, that annoys me. And then after a few years, you go, yeah, those things don't annoy me at all anymore. So my only conclusion is that you don't really need the speed of the straight pull for everyday life. You don't need the speed of that straight pull for everyday life. However, I've had probably 3 occasions with this rifle where that straight pull has resulted in higher numbers of deer shot for shooting fallow, for culling fallow, and when they're stood in front of you, that time saved while stood on the rifle is just unreal. The ability to shoot a deer, bang, reload, pick up another deer in those situations is obscene. Is this rifle needed for everybody? Probably not. Is it nice for everybody? Yeah, like you're not gonna go, oh, I wish I had a slower shooting rifle. That's for sure. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care. It was just a few of my thoughts about this gun. I thought I'd share my experiences. I've been spoken to a few people about it recently. I've had a few people ask, so I thought I'd make a video on it and save having to repeat myself. Guys, take care. Have a great day. And, well, hoorah.